have never seen Star Wars, but Star Wars is the biggest thing to ever happen in pop culture. So last month, I made a video trying to predict what happens in A New Hope based just on what I know from cultural osmosis. And then I watched it for the first time. I got a bunch wrong, like the fact that Yoda wasn't even in that movie. Well, now we're back for the second Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back. And honestly, I do think that this one will be a little bit easier to predict. Because now we have the context of having seen the first movie. We have the ground rules of the universe, right? I know about the rebels. I know about the Empire. I know that the lightsabers are actually blue and not green for some reason. Plus, the name of the second movie gives us a pretty solid direction to go down. The Empire Strikes Back. In the last movie, the movie ended with the rebels blowing up the Death Star, which was like the big base of the Empire. So I'm assuming in this movie, The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire will be striking back. We already have a North Star on figuring out the plot for this movie. But truthfully, I'm still very confused about the characters. Like, Yoda was not in the last movie. And then apparently, even though that Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt were in the last movie, they weren't originally in the last movie. They were added digitally after the fact. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe this is a unpopular opinion. Maybe it's a popular opinion. I don't know. I feel like going back and adding stuff to your movie years later should be illegal. It's like if you're in school, say you're in college, and you write an essay. Say my freshman year of college, I wrote an essay, I turned it in, and then now as a 26-year-old man, I was like, man, I can make that essay better now. Let me go back and fix that. I'm not even enrolled in school, dog. You can't go back and change that. Oh well, I digress. There's still a lot working against me when it comes to trying to predict this movie. A big part of that is I put all of the ideas of what I thought Star Wars was in my last prediction, and half of them didn't even happen in that movie. So then I was like, well, am I just gonna repeat the same thing in this movie? You know, the classic Luke, I am your father, Yoda, all that stuff. So I came up with a little idea. I asked a few of my friends here on YouTube if they can send me a short video of them giving me a hint about what this movie's about.
You know, sometimes when people are cold, they wear gloves, to protect their hands. But sometimes they only wear one. And that's enough, because they don't need more. You know what I mean? Probably not. Anyway, see you later.
Interesting. This hint from my buddy Dylan. I think I know what he's alluding to. Some people only wear one glove. Michael Jackson's in this goddamn movie, isn't he? All the lightsaber sounds are just his ad-libs from songs. Shimon, hey! No, I'm just joking. I believe that what he's alluding to is that there's going to be a character that only has one hand, or there's a character who loses a hand. And I'm leaning towards the idea that someone loses a hand, because I also got this hint.
Hi Chase, it's Lauren Daisy, and my hint for you is going to be the lyrics. Let's hear it for the boy. Let's give the boy a hand. Which might sound a little ridiculous, but I'm hoping once you've seen the movie, you'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
The song lyrics, let's hear it for the boy. Let's give the boy a hand. I'm thinking somebody gets their hand chopped off. And I have a theory on who it could be, but we will get into that in a little bit. First, let's check out this hint from Travis.
Hi, Chase. Travis McElroy here from the internet, I guess. So, wanted to give you a hint, a clue, if you will. An old friend of Lando and Chewie's shows up, and they are on a much different career path than when the two smugglers knew them. Also, someone strikes back in this one, but I'm not gonna say who.
Now this hint is extremely helpful, because when I first watched it, I was like, okay, an old friend of Han and Chewie's shows up, and they're on like a different career path. My immediate thought, Boba Fett. Because in the last movie, we saw that Boba Fett was like working with Jabba the Hutt, so maybe Boba Fett is an old friend of Han and Chewbacca, but now he's working for Jabba the Hutt. Or maybe he's working for the Empire or something. But then I re-listened to the hint, and Travis says Lando and Chewie. Was that a mistake, a slip of the tongue, or was it a secret hint? Because I think the old friend of Han and Chewie's is going to be Lando. Now, I have definitely heard the word Lando. I know that there's a character named Lando, and I'm pretty sure that Donald Glover plays Lando in a movie. Now, I didn't know that was like a reboot thing, or like, I didn't realize Donald Glover was playing a character from the original movies, but I think that might be the case if I'm not taking this clue in the wrong way. This might be the most helpful hint we've had, if I'm understanding it correctly, because it's giving us a character that I would have never thought to include if I hadn't gotten the hint. So let's see the next hint.
All right, Chase, here's what I got for you. I'm trying to not be too vague that it doesn't really help, but also not give too much away with this. So I'm going to say Boba Fett, his popularity is like this. His role in the film is like this. That's not to say that he doesn't have kind of an important role. It's just not a very big role, especially when you take into account how popular of a character he is. So that's my hint for you. I can't wait to see the video.
This tells me that Boba Fett is in this movie and apparently has an important part in it, just not a lot of screen time. Is this going to be like the last movie where he just walks across the screen and I'm like, oh, that's Boba Fett? Or is he actually going to be a part of the plot? That is what we have got to figure out.
All right, Chase, so I hear you're doing The Empire Strikes Back now. Usually a lot of people don't really like that one, but maybe you'll like it. I don't know. So, you know the biggest twist of cinema history, basically, that comes from this movie. But even saying that, the one hint I'm going to give you for this movie is the word family.
Now, this right here, this is key for us. Thrifty makes it seem like this is the movie where we get the very famous Luke, I am your father. This is extremely helpful because I thought that happened in the last movie, and I was hesitant about thinking it happened in this movie. I didn't want to just be like, every time I make a prediction for a Star Wars movie, be like, this is the one where it happens. Part of me was like, oh, it's probably going to be saved for the third movie. Like, it's going to happen in the end of the first trilogy. But based on this hint, if it happens in this movie, that definitely changes things and helps, I would say, tremendously with my prediction. Another thing that I have to keep in mind when trying to predict what happens in this movie is that I imagine the budget went up a lot. The first movie being a smash hit meant that the second one, there's probably a lot more set pieces, there's probably a lot more fight scenes, there's probably a lot more locations. The works. So now that we've gotten all of our hints, let's see if we can figure out what happens in The Empire Strikes Back.
Join the further adventures of Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca in a spectacular new episode of the continuing Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. Coming to your galaxy this summer.
All right, let's start with the characters that I think are going to be in this movie, starting with our main characters from the last movie. Obviously, Luke and Han and Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO, and Leia are all going to be coming back for this movie. It's safe to assume that Darth Vader is going to be in this movie, you know, because of the whole Luke, I am your father thing. And then, what we have learned from our hints, Boba Fett is going to be involved in this movie in some capacity. And since I'm pretty sure in the last movie we learned that he works for Jabba the Hutt, I imagine that Jabba the Hutt is going to have a bigger role in this movie as well. Then I'm also pretty sure that Lando is going to be involved in some capacity. Now this next character, this is the one I'm losing sleep over, brother. I would have bet you $1 million that Yoda was in the first Star Wars movie. I would have put my life on it, but he wasn't in the movie. I'm hesitant to include him in this movie. There's a part of me, it's like, is this dude just in the prequels or something? But then I remember Obi-Wan died in the last movie, which means that he's not going to be in this movie, which means that Luke needs a mentor character to help teach him the Force. Because if Luke's going to become a Jedi, he can't become a Jedi just based on what he learned in the first movie. He barely learned anything in the first movie. He needs someone who's an old Jedi that can teach him how to become a Jedi, and that has got to be Yoda. If Yoda is not in this movie, I'm going to be pissed. How is he like the face of Star Wars if he's not in the movies? He has to be in this one. He just has to. Plus, remember the thing we said about the budget being bigger in this one? I bet they just couldn't afford to make the puppet in the first one. And I'm fairly certain that I've seen an interview before where Jim Henson's company, the Muppet, they made the puppet for Yoda. Unless I'm getting that confused with the baby Yoda stuff in the new stuff. And then I hate to break it to all of my Rex Lavender stans. I don't think he's going to be in this movie. From what I learned in the first movie, it seems like the Jedi are pretty much extinct. Like they're very hard to come by. I just don't think that there's Jedis running around all willy-nilly. So I don't think our buddy Rex Lavender is going to be showing up in this one. I'm hoping Yoda shows up in this one. Just from what I've pieced together from the first movie, though, it does seem like the prequel movies, because they take place before, I think they'll have a lot more of the Jedis in them, which that makes a lot more sense why Samuel L. Jackson would be in those, because those came out in like the 2000s as opposed to the 70s and 80s. And guys, I think that is all of the characters that I'm going to be working with in this movie. My downfall in the last one was I did too many characters. I came up with a love interest for Luke because I was like, well, it can't be Leia because that's his sister, but it's a whole thing. If I would have kept it simpler, I would have done a better job at predicting the movie last time. So I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can. Luke doesn't need a love interest because, and I understand this now, the fact that Darth Vader is his father, obviously supposed to be a huge twist. He's not like, that's supposed to be like, oh my God, that's the craziest thing that's ever happened in a movie before, right? So they're probably setting up a similar surprise for when we find out that these two are siblings. So they're probably trying to lean into a bit of a will they, won't they between these two characters. So that way, when we find out that they're siblings, it's like, oh, wow, we did not see that coming. We thought that they were going to end up together. But my bias is just because I thought I knew a lot about Star Wars just from pop culture. I'm pretty certain that Adam Driver's character in the new Star Wars movies is the son of Han Solo and Leia. So my thought process when I was predicting the first movie was that these two were going to have that will they, won't they dynamic. But I was wrong. It's actually between Luke and Leia. So no need for Luke to have a love interest because they're kind of teasing it that Leia is supposed to be his love interest. All right, but in order to start predicting the plot of this movie, the biggest prediction we need to make is where the movie starts off. Does it start off immediately after the end of the first movie? Or is there a bit of a time jump? Is this going to be 6 months, a year after the events of the first movie? Now, my gut is telling me that there's going to be a bit of a time jump, right? Because at the end of the last movie, the Death Star got blown up. It's going to take some time for the Empire to recoup from that big loss. But if we're talking about a year later, if a year has gone by since that, where the fuck has Luke been? He doesn't have a home. His mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, is dead, and he barely knows anything about being a Jedi. So where has he been all this time? My first instinct is that he's been hanging out with Han Solo and Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon. But Han and Chewbacca are smugglers, and I don't know if Luke is about that life. I think that Luke is way more caught up and involved in the whole Rebels versus the Empire thing. So I'm thinking that Luke has stayed with Leia at the Rebel secret base because Leia's home planet was destroyed in the last movie, which means that she also does not have a home. So it would make sense that these two have stuck around at the secret Rebel base. Then, since the movie is called The Empire Strikes Back, I bet that is the inciting incident of the movie that pushes the plot forward. I think that the Empire is going to strike very early in the movie. Luke is all happy and comfortable in his new home. He's probably like the star pilot for the Rebel Alliance after his sick dude perfect trick shot from the last movie. But then the Empire shows up in the dead of night, sneak attack, massacres the rebels. However, Luke and Leia, thanks to the help of their old pals Han and Chewbacca, who maybe they're in hiding because Jabba the Hutt has a bounty on them. Remember, and we'll get into this whole thing with them in a minute. But remember, we know that they owe Jabba money, and he's already sent someone to try to kill Han once. So maybe they've been out and about doing their own thing, smuggling. They need a hiding spot. So they're going to go to the Rebel secret base. And when they get there, everything's going to shit. The Empire's destroying everybody, just murdering people left and right. They scoop up Luke, Leia, and the droids and get the fuck out of there. So our 6 main characters, they're all on the Millennium Falcon now. The rebels have been pretty much wiped out. It's up to them. All of the weight of the rebels and the fight against the Empire is on their shoulders now. Leia tells them that they need to go to this secret hiding place that they have in case of emergencies for the rebels. They have to warn the other rebels, the remaining rebels, about what just happened at their main base. But Luke needs to go on his own journey. Because basically we need to get Luke to Yoda somehow. We have to get Luke to the Jedi that can teach him how to become a Jedi, right? And in order to do that, I think that Yoda is going to come to Luke in a dream. Luke's going to be asleep on the Millennium Falcon. He's going to dream of this little freak Yoda. And he's going to be like, you need to come to my planet, the Yoda planet, the place where the Yodas live. Now, I'm assuming that Yoda is the name of the people, because there's Baby Yoda now, right? And I do not think that Baby Yoda has any relation to Old Yoda. But I could be wrong. It would be hilarious if Baby Yoda is the son of Old Yoda, because that means that Old Yoda has a fly honey back home, and I would just love to see that family picture. This is regular Yoda and his wife, Hot Yoda, and their twin children, Baby Yoda and Toy Yoda. Let's go places. So, on the way to their secret rebel rendezvous, they drop Luke off at the Yoda planet. That way, Luke can continue his journey of becoming a Jedi, and the others have their own problems to worry about. Because Leia doesn't know this, but Han and Chewbacca are on the run. They're running from Boba Fett, who has been sent after them by Jabba the Hutt. I think that the hint that we got where it said that Boba Fett's popularity is very big, but his screen time in this one is very small. I think he's just going to be kind of following them the whole time. He's adding stakes and suspense to the movie because we, the audience, know that Boba Fett is getting closer and closer. But our characters, Han and Leia and Chewbacca, they don't know how close they are to being caught by Boba Fett. And that's not the only person hunting them down. No, because after Darth Vader has attacked the rebel base, he realizes that Luke and Leia have managed to escape. So Vader needs to hunt them down and stop them from warning the remaining rebels at a secret rendezvous. So they need to hunt them down. Who do they hire to hunt them down? Han and Chewie's old friend, Lando. From our hint about Lando, it seems that he used to be good buddies with Han and Chewbacca. But he's not a smuggler anymore. He's in a different occupation now. That occupation is working for the Empire. So he's the one sent after Han and Chewbacca. So now our main characters are being hunted down by 2 different bad guys. Well, 3 if you count Jabba the Hutt. Luke has his own thing going on. He's kind of like, the plots are separate in this movie. And I think that Lando, if you remember in my last video, when I was predicting A New Hope, I thought that Boba Fett or Samuel L. Jackson was going to be some sort of anti-hero that our main characters thought that they could trust, but then betrays them. I think that could be given to the Lando character. Maybe Lando shows up and he's like, I'm here to help you guys. I heard what happened. And our main characters are unaware that their best smuggler friend is working for the Empire now. Boom, betrayed by Lando. Lando betrays them. Han and Chewie are captured by Darth Vader and the Empire. But Princess Leia, along with the 2 droids, manage to escape on the Millennium Falcon. They are not captured by the Empire. But that doesn't mean that trouble isn't coming, because very shortly, Boba Fett, who sees the Millennium Falcon, thinks it's Han Solo and Chewbacca. He boards their ship, kidnaps them. And this lines up with a big prediction that I had about Star Wars in general, which is that I was fairly certain that Jabba the Hutt had Princess Leia held hostage, because in every sitcom in the 2000s, they would bring up Princess Leia in a gold bikini. And I'm pretty sure in that scene, she is being held prisoner by Jabba the Hutt. So everything's gone crazy, right? These two, Han and Chewie, are being held captive by Darth Vader. Leia and the droids are being held captive by Jabba the Hutt. Chase, where is Luke in all of this? I already told you he is on a journey of self-discovery with Yoda. Now, what I'm banking on is that at the end of the first movie, it was just a heartfelt win for the good guys. I think that this movie is going to end in chaos and just bad news for the home team. That way, at the end of the third movie, the end of the trilogy, when the good guys finally defeat the Empire and kill Darth Vader, it feels like there were some stakes. It feels like we earned it, right? In the world of pro wrestling, the good guy gets some shine at first to show his ability, to get the crowd on his side, but then the heel, the bad guy, starts beating his ass. And it's like, oh no, how will our good guy overcome the strength and the ability of the bad guy? But then at the end of the match, the good guy manages to win out and everyone is very happy. Storytelling 101, baby. So everything is ending poorly in this movie for our main characters. They're captured by various big bad guys, and Luke, well, I think we know what happens to Luke at the end of this movie, a little father-son playtime, playing a little bit of catch-up with the old man. Now, I don't know too much about how the Force works yet, but I'm fairly certain that there is a mind capacity. Remember in the first movie when Obi-Wan convinced those stormtroopers, I guess, that these are not the droids you're looking for. There's some sort of mind control thing. I think that using the Force, Vader figures out that Luke is on the Yoda planet. So he goes to the Yoda planet to find and stop Luke. And we just get the epic finale fight scene here, right? First, Yoda and Darth Vader start fighting it out, 1v1. But Yoda's an old man. He is no longer a baby Yoda. He's a little slower than he used to be. And I think that we're going to get a repeat of what happened in the first movie with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Remember when Obi-Wan just stood there and let Darth Vader murder him in front of Luke's eyes? What the fuck was that about? He was like, you know what'll help Luke become a Jedi? Trauma. But I think it's going to happen again. I think that Yoda is going to let himself get murdered by Darth Vader right in front of Luke's eyes again. And Luke is going to lose his mind. He's going to be like, no! Why do you keep doing this to the old men in my life? If Luke ever went to a nursing home, they would have to put that place on red alert, lockdown, because Darth Vader would have a field day killing all of the old people in Luke's life. So this is where we get our first confrontation face-to-face, or face to helmet, between Vader and Luke, father and son. They're lightsabering it up. Luke has learned a lot lately from Yoda and from Obi-Wan in the first movie, but he's still a rookie. Darth Vader is one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. Maybe Darth Vader, you know, at first he's impressed. He's like, okay, Luke, okay. But then he very quickly gets the upper hand and he's taunting Luke. This is easy work for him. So Vader's got the upper hand. He's showing Luke what the most feared man in the galaxy battles like. Just a bunch of lightsaber tricks. He's got Luke backed up into a corner, cuts off his hand. I think that Luke is going to be the one who loses a hand based off of our hints. Mostly because I feel like getting your hand cut off is a very much a lightsaber activity. Like, I don't think someone's gonna because, you know, the stormtroopers and Han and everybody, they have the blasters. I don't think you get your hand blasted off. I think you get your hand cut off by a lightsaber. Luke is the only one of the good guys with a lightsaber. For a second, though, I did think maybe Han was the one who loses a hand, but then I remembered his name is just Hand without a D, and I just felt like that was a little too on the nose. I also thought maybe Darth Vader loses a hand. But with my prediction here, I want the movie to end. I'm acting like I'm writing this movie. I want the movie to end with the bad guys coming out on top in every way. so that our good guys are really feeling the results of the Empire striking back. And I just don't see a world where Luke cuts off Darth Vader's hand and then still loses the battle. You know what I mean? I think it adds more stakes, especially with what we know what's about to happen, which is boom, hand cut off. And maybe Luke at this point is just sobbing. And he's just like, you monster. You killed Obi-Wan. You killed Yoda. You killed my family. You killed my father. And Vader goes, killed your father? Luke, I am your father. And then he goes to swing and kill Luke with his lightsaber. But just like how when Obi-Wan got in the last movie, he was still able to talk to Luke, like in Luke's head. And he was like, run, Luke, run. I think that Yoda's voice pops up in his head. And he's like, use the Force, you must. And right before Vader's about to kill Luke with his lightsaber, Luke shoots his hand up, starts force choking Darth Vader. Darth Vader is like, oh shit, that's my signature move. I guess the apple didn't fall that far from the tree. He's so shocked that he's being force choked. Luke has just enough time to hop in like a little ship or something, and get out of there. And that's the end of the movie. The movie ends with Luke all alone in space, missing a hand. His friends are all captured by the Empire and by Jabba the Hutt. It's all up to him to save the rebels, to save his friends, to save the galaxy. Boom! I feel so confident about this movie, especially thanks to the hints that I got sent by my friends. There's links down below to follow all of them. All right, I'm pumped. I'm going to go watch The Empire Strikes Back, and I'm going to jump right back in here, and we will see how good or bad I did.
R2, let him have it. R2!
All right, first things first, this movie ruled. I liked the first movie. This movie was sick. I really understand the hype behind Star Wars now. Oh, and I nailed the whole first act. I predicted pretty much the entire first act. For the first 20 minutes or so, I just kept repeating, oh my God, I nailed this, under my breath. And then pretty quickly, my predictions did go off track. But honestly, I think I did pretty good. Like, I was right about Luke being with Leia at the Rebel base. Now, what I did not get right was that I predicted that Han and Chewie had been off smuggling, but actually, Han and Chewie had actually stayed at the Rebel base as well. They have joined the Rebels. We then find out that Jabba the Hutt has a bounty out for these two. And so I was like, boom, I'm a genius. But Jabba the Hutt doesn't show up at this movie at all. So I did miss that one. Towards the beginning, Luke gets into a fight with a Yeti, cuts its arm off with his lightsaber. And at first I was like, wait, was this what all of the hand hints was about? This Yeti that loses an arm? But then I learned later that I was correct with my prediction that Luke is the one who loses a hand. Also, Obi-Wan shows up as like a hallucination or as like a ghost. And he's the one who tells Luke that he needs to go to Yoda's planet. In my prediction, I had it that Yoda showed up in Luke's dreams and was like, you need to come to my planet. Speaking of the Luke and Yoda plotline, I kind of nailed that entire part of my prediction, that storyline throughout that movie. I was pretty accurate. He goes to Yoda's planet. Yoda starts teaching him to become a Jedi. That feels like a big win for me. Another thing that I got very wrong, though, was that I thought that we were going to continue this kind of will they, won't they between Luke and Leia in this movie. That is not the case. We do see Leia kiss Luke at one point, but it was to make Han Solo jealous. We get the will they, won't they storyline between Han and Leia. And it ends with Leia telling Han Solo that she loves him. So it looks like the whole Luke-Leia dynamic, it shifted gears almost immediately after the first movie. Also, hilarious that we know that they're siblings and then they kissed. Very funny. And I think that they did that on purpose because at one point in this movie, and this is, I don't understand this part, so bear with me. At one point in this movie, Yoda and Obi-Wan, dead guy Obi-Wan, they're talking about Luke because we'll get into that. But they're like, you know, he's our only hope. And they're like, no, there is another. My thought process is Leia the other possibility for who can save because they're siblings, right? So it's like, Were they aware that these two were siblings at this point? I think that makes the most sense. Another thing that I was confused about this movie, I don't mean to get us too far off course, but in this movie, Luke and R2 go together to Yoda's planet. In my prediction, Luke was by himself, but he does have R2. It seems like he can understand what R2's beeps mean. Like, I don't think it was like that in the last movie. I think C-3PO always has to translate for R2-D2. But in this one, they have like a conversation on their way to Yoda's planet. Let me know if that's how that works. Like, did he just learn the language, or what's the deal with that? Also, we get to Yoda's planet. I didn't realize how hilarious Yoda was. Dude's a comedian. The scene where Luke first meets Yoda had me cracking up. And I'm really looking forward to just cracking up. It's been a long time since I've just really cracked up.
Well, I think I'm looking forward to cracking up. I hope I can, totally crack up. So I haven't, totally cracked up in a long time.
There is also a character in this movie that I did not know about. This guy. At first, I was like, is that the bad guy from the first Halloween Town movie?
This is your last chance. Give me the talisman.
But I believe that this is the Emperor. He is Darth Vader's boss, which that's a whole other thing. Before I've watched these two movies, the first two Star Wars movies, I thought Darth Vader was like the top of the top, the big bad guy. But in the first movie, he was taking orders from that tall, skinny guy. In this movie, he's got this creepy looking dude giving him orders. So it seems like Darth Vader's just, again, another soldier in this war. I thought that he was like the big boss. Now, one thing that I did get right is that Boba Fett is hunting down Han and Chewbacca. But what's also interesting, and I did not see this coming, is that Boba Fett is also working for Darth Vader in this movie. Now, we find out later in the movie that Boba Fett has a deal with Darth Vader that he will help them find, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca, the group. But he gets to take Han Solo with him to Jabba the Hutt to get his bounty paid. Then, in my prediction, I had Han and Chewbacca being kidnapped by Lando for Darth Vader. And then I had Leia and the two droids escaping, but then getting captured by Boba Fett. That is not the case. They do not get separated. Han, Chewie, Leia, and the droids are together for pretty much this whole movie. Luke is the only one on a separate adventure. That being said, Lando is in this movie. Thank you for the hint, Travis. He does betray his old friends, but it's more like he's forced by Darth Vader to do it. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to betray his friends. And immediately after he betrays his friends, he becomes one of the good guys and helps save everybody. Kind of. Lando, as a character, really cool, really badass. We find out that he was the original pilot, the original owner of the Millennium Falcon, lost it to Han Solo in a bet or something. One thing that I did not think to even include in my prediction was a death of a character, like one of the major characters dying in the movie. Didn't even cross my mind, other than Yoda, of course. I'm just talking about the core group. But it actually almost happens twice in the movie. First, C-3PO runs into another droid that looks just like him, but silver. The dude cusses him out? I don't know what the fuck that was about, but then he goes into the door after getting cussed out by his cousin or whatever. Boom, gets blown up. Luckily, Chewbacca was able to put him back together, so C-3PO is not dead. And then Darth Vader is torturing Han Solo, and they eventually carbon freeze him. Now, at first, I just thought they straight up murdered this guy. But we find out that he's preserved, he's in perfect hibernation, he can be brought back. But Boba Fett takes off with his stone body to Jabba the Hutt. So Han is not with the rest of the group. I think pretty obviously he's going to survive, because Harrison Ford, I think he's in the last movie. Plus, if Adam Driver's character in the new Star Wars movies is the son of Han Solo and Leia, then Han will have to stay alive. I think we know he makes it. Now, just like all of the predictions I made for this movie, I'm kind of right and kind of wrong about the big finale. I was right that it ends with a big one-on-one lightsaber battle between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. But it does not take place on Yoda's planet. Oh, and Yoda, by the way, does not get killed in this movie. He does not fight Darth Vader at all, actually. Luke leaves Yoda's planet before his training is finished, which upsets both Yoda and the dead Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Luke basically had like this Force vision that Leia and Han were in trouble, and he's like, I gotta go help my friends. So he leaves. He ends up at the big city in the sky. That is not a metaphor for dying. There is literally a city in the sky owned by Lando. But anyway, Luke goes up there. That's where he confronts Darth Vader, and it's a whole epic battle. Sure enough, Luke gets his hand chopped off. We did figure that out. And then one thing that I thought was insane is that when Vader does the big Luke, I am your father moment, which we do get in this movie, he doesn't say, Luke, I am your father. He says, no, I am your father. Which after that happened, I immediately was like, oh, I think I knew that. I think I saw that in like a Mandela Effect compilation. So I should have known that one ahead of time. The movie also ended very differently than I predicted. I predicted all of our characters were going to be separated, kidnapped, Luke was going to be all alone, and it's up to him to save the world. Or the galaxy. But the movie actually ends with everyone all together. Again, except for Han, who is being taken to Jabba the Hutt as a stone. Then Lando and Chewie are loading up in the Millennium Falcon to go and try to save Han Solo. Luke, Leia, and the droids are together on a rebel secret base. And then the most shocking thing of the entire movie happens. In the credits, George Lucas did not write or direct this movie. It's some dude named Irvin. Who the fuck is Irvin? I thought George Lucas like wrote and directed all of Star Wars. That was like his whole thing. Regardless, the movie was awesome. I'm very happy that Yoda didn't die in the movie because he is hysterical. I'm very excited to see what happens in the big finale of this trilogy. As for my prediction for what the movie was going to be about, I think I got pretty close. I had a big hand up, no pun intended. Just kidding, extra pun intended. From my friends who sent in hints, I wouldn't have been able to figure out half of this if it wasn't for those. Links down below to check all of them out. Follow me on Instagram, links down below for Patreon. All right, dope.